Till standard 10th, I used to barely pass. I used to get nightmare when physics question paper was put in front of me. My most of the time was invested in playing cricket. I studied and surprisingly I topped my class. I said, इतना easy होता है.
Hello everyone, welcome to our podcast. My name is Mehul.
And my name is Mayank. Today's guest for the podcast is ISB's Chairman Awardee, a 100% scholarship holder at ISB, a CA and CS rank holder, someone who has won numerous awards at ISB and also at national case competitions, and someone who also happens to be a dear friend, Rishav Agarwal. Welcome to the podcast, Rishav. How are you?
Thank you, Mehul and Mayank, for inviting me to this podcast. I'm doing really great. It's wonderful to be a guest here so that I can interact with your listeners.
Great. So Rishav, why don't you start with the journey so far? A brief background about yourself. Why CA and why did you transition into an MBA?
Perfect. Just to put perspective in place and, more and more listeners interested. Currently, I'm sitting in Mumbai, which is one of the most happening cities in the country. But I belong to a place called Dhanbad, which generally people relate to as gangs of Wasseypur. So the journey I've seen is from Dhanbad to Mumbai, which is a very unorthodox kind of a journey, because we don't find a lot of people from the eastern belt traveling towards the west and trying to make their careers. So I can cater to both the jantas now. One who's sitting the very smart and very forward kind of public sitting in Mumbai, and as well as very humble, very grounded, and people who have big dreams sitting in the eastern part of the country. So this is the janta I want to cater to. So I was born and brought up in the city of Dhanbad. Perfectly in coal mines, in such a place, where secondary, primary education used to be a challenge. And I was born in a business family, so you can understand from my surname, Agarwal. So as you would know, people who come from business family, Bania family, Marwari family, that profession wouldn't be a thing for you when you were born in like the 90s, being a Gen X kid. They would want you to join the family business and take it forward. But my mother and the destiny had different plans for me. I kind of aced my standard 12. And that's when the journey began of, pursuing excellence and doing something different from what we were seeing our seniors or our elders doing. So just to cater to a crowd who's not doing very good in their academics, till standard 10th, I used to barely pass. So I used to get nightmare when physics question paper was put in front of me. So I used to barely pass. My most of the time was invested in playing cricket. But in standard 11th, I think I hit that feeling of self-introspection. Once you realize that what I'm doing with my life, where do I really want to go? So that happened to me in standard 11. So, and there was a ट्यूशन टीचर who told me कि एक बार पढ़ के तो देखो, नहीं समझ में आएगा छोड़ देना, just try once. तो मैंने उसको एज ए चैलेंज ही ले लिया कि पढ़ के देखते हैं, कुछ हो तो जाएगा नहीं. आई वाज वेरी रेकलेस एट दैट पॉइंट. कुछ होना है नहीं, पढ़ ले. आई स्टडीड एंड सरप्राइजिंगली आई टॉप्ड माय क्लास. आई सेड इतना इजी होता है, लाइक ठीक है करके देखते हैं. एंड वंस यू टॉप योर क्लास ना, उसके बाद इट कम्स टू योर ईगो. इट्स लाइक कि यू हैव टू मेंटेन दैट स्टैंडर्ड. सो आई स्टार्टेड एसिंग माय एकेडमिक्स, टॉप स्टैंडर्ड 11, टॉप स्टैंडर्ड 12, गॉट अ गुड रैंक इन माय डिस्ट्रिक्ट इन सीबीएसई एग्जामिनेशन. एंड उसके बाद लगा क्या करना है. सो honestly, that time we were not counseled really well. We didn't know what to do, what career options do we have. Social media didn't exist. We didn't know to use Google that well as well. तो पता भी नहीं होता था कि सर्च क्या करें गूगल में. So what you do, you reach out to people in your closer vicinity or in your extended family who has done something in their life. And सबने बोला CA कर लो. मैं बोला क्यों कर लूं? They said cheapest cost and good prospect going ahead. Perfect. What more do you need? Minimum investment, maximum return. Baniya aadmi hu, like kar lo bhai. So that's how I picked up CA. A lot of people will tell you, it was a very calculated decision. I had this in mind, I had that in mind. Nothing like that. It just happened. So ROI बढ़िया दिख रहा था, ज़्यादा पता नहीं था. I barely knew 3-4 courses which can be done. So I picked up CA. So but वो hunch हमेशा दिमाग में था कि जो भी करना excel करना. So I started studying hard during my CA days. I felt that I still have time. So because social media was again not there, you had a lot of time. If you're very sincere, you have 24 hours. Your parents are paying for you, and you want to really skim that every second out. Sweat every minute which you have. So you realize that I had a lot of time. That's why I chose CS also to take up parallelly. So I started doing CA and CS. I was studying and getting good marks as well. So rank अपने आप आ गए. So it was never in the plan ki rank hi lana hai. It was like scope hi nahi hai fail hone ka. People doing CA, CS or knowing about CA, CS would know ki it's a kind of a vicious circle. A lot of people flunk in CA and CS, and you get into that circle and आप बार बार re-attempt करते रहते हो. So I didn't want to get into that circle. The first shot I wanted to clear it, and इतना ज्यादा पढ़ लिया कि गलती से rank आ गया. So that's how CA and CS happened. But again, मतलब me being me, when I was about to appear for my CA professional exam, the final exam, जिसके बाद आप CA बन जाते हो, मेरे को लगा मेरे को नौकरी करनी नहीं. I am someone who don't want to do job. किसी ने कभी CA suggest कर दिया था, so I started picking that up, and that's when the first pivot of my life came. So we hear this word a lot, pivot. तो pivot खाली startups नहीं करते हैं, humans भी करते हैं. So and it's never too late to pivot. Whenever you realize कि अरे यार ये नहीं करना चाहिए, you just have one life. You have to go back to the drawing board and think कि करना क्या है, and you start again. So I went into 1 month का समझ लो borderline depression. I'll not call it depression. It's a very medical term. But एक महीना मैं इस over thought process में चला गया कि what am I doing with my life? I don't want to get into a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 9 job. I'm not made for that. Coming especially from a Baniya family, मेरा कुछ अलग करना. That's when I started researching कि करना क्या चाहिए. Talking to people again. Internet थोड़ा सा अच्छा हो गया था, तो searching कि what career options do you have. That's when I found out कि UPSC करते हैं, बहुत पावर मिलता है उसमें. तो I was trying to find out that equation कि पावर या पैसा क्या चाहिए लाइफ में. पैसा ठीक है, पर पावर चाहिए. तो लगा पावर, तो ये एक मिडिल क्लास लड़के को पावर कहाँ से मिल सकता है. इन इंडिया इट्स यूपीएससी विच कैन गिव यू पावर. सो मैंने यूपीएससी प्रिपरेशन सोचा कि अब स्टार्ट करना है, बट आई हैड दिस बिग रोड ब्लॉक इन फ्रंट ऑफ मी कि मैं सीए के लास्ट स्टेज पे पहुंचा हुआ हूँ. 3 महीने में मेरे सीए के एग्जाम्स है, बट मेरे को यूपीएससी करना है. सो व्हाट डू आई डू? तो नॉट टेकिंग अ नी जर्क रिएक्शन, मैंने बोला लेट्स फर्स्ट क्लियर दिस रोड ब्लॉक. तो just with the inspiration that I want to do UPSC, I cleared my CA final exam. कि I want this roadblock out of place. कोई दोबारा ये नहीं बोले कि CA नहीं बना. या मेरे दिमाग में भी ये नहीं आया कि I left CA when I was at the very edge of it. So I completed my CA, and immediately after my CA exams, I took up UPSC preparation. I didn't sit for campus placements. I didn't go for any interviews. I was very clear कि नहीं करना मेरे को job. So again, and I took a very orthodox route for doing UPSC. Went to Karol Bagh, joined coaching center. The very normal kind of a UPSC student life I led for 2 years. बहुत सीखा, बहुत कुछ किया, but couldn't clear this exam because UPSC is such a unique exam जहां आपका टीचर और आप बैठ के एक साथ एक ही एग्जाम हॉल में पेपर लिख रहे हो. So this is very funny. मेरे जो कोचिंग के टीचर होते थे, they were also appearing and I'm also appearing. And how do you expect me to ace that kind of an examination? Kudos to people who do it in their first attempt. But let me tell you, there are a lot of people who do it in their first attempt who are being conditioned from their very early age. हमें लगता है कि फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में हो गया, बट उसके पीछे का बैक स्टोरी वी डोंट नो. So I had interacted with a lot of people there, जो first attempt there, but they have been conditioned for like 10-15 years already. They are into the system mentally. So it's very easy for them to do it compared to someone जिसको 21 साल की उम्र में जाके लगा कि मेरे को यूपीएससी करना है. And everybody knows the pass percentage. It's very, very small. So I was one of those people who couldn't clear it. The blame is completely on me though. I would not like to blame anyone क्योंकि अगर कोई भी कर रहा है तो मैं कर सकता हूँ. And if I'm still not able to do it, there's something wrong with me. तो फिर मैंने यूपीएससी क्लियर नहीं हुआ, but I invested 2 years. But this was the time when I had to take the hardest decision of my life.
I'll cut you here once.
Sure.
One question, curious. I'm curious to know.
Absolutely.
Passing percentage तो CA में भी बहुत कम है. So you've tried both the things. Which one would you say was the more difficult examination to prepare for, or in general to pass, to qualify?
So अगर मेरे को परसेंटेज की बात करनी हो तो CA final has a pass percentage of about 3%. And अगर मेरे को UPSC की बात करनी हो, then the UPSC has a pass percentage of about 0.1%. The final people who clear it. So, and that is not also IAS officers. 0.1% of people who are placed across the services. जो top 1000, 1200, 900 depending on the year जो लोग पास करते हैं. तो उसमें भी टॉप 100 सिर्फ आईएएस ऑफिसर या टॉप 50 सिर्फ आईएएस ऑफिसर्स बनते हैं. तो द पास परसेंट इटसेल्फ इज वेरी डिफरेंट. सेकंड इज सीए इज वेरी स्ट्रक्चर्ड काइंड ऑफ एन एग्जामिनेशन. आप किताब से पढ़ के जाओ, कॉन्सेप्ट्स को समझ लो, यू गेट अ क्वेश्चन पेपर, यू आंसर इट. सो अ वेरी स्टैंडर्ड काइंड ऑफ एन एग्जामिनेशन. वेयर इज यूपीएससी का सिलेबस इज लाइक, मतलब आपको सिलेबस बनाना ही नहीं, यू जस्ट राइट एनीथिंग बिलो द स्काई. So that is the kind of syllabus which UPSC have. So coaching institutes try to bring it in a structure, but still they are unsuccessful. मतलब अगर मेरे को prelims की बात करनी हो, so there are 100 questions in general studies. उसमें से सिर्फ 50 या 60 ऐसे होंगे जो आपने अगर पूरे प्रिपरेशन किए होंगे तो भी आपको पता होंगे. 40 questions would still be there जिसका आपको कोई आइडिया ही नहीं. मतलब where it did come from you just don't know. आपने रिमोटली उस पूरे क्वेश्चन का एक वर्ड कहीं सुना होगा, बट यू डोंट नो दैट कॉन्सेप्ट इन दैट डेप्थ कि तुम उसको 100% कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ आंसर कर सको. सो दैट इज द काइंड ऑफ डिफरेंस. दिस इज जस्ट प्रीलिम्स. आफ्टर दैट यू हैव मेंस व्हिच इज वेरी सब्जेक्टिव. लोग क्या पूछ रहे हैं और तुम क्या लिख रहे हो और चेक करने वाला क्या सोच रहा है, तीनों के बीच में कुछ भी अगर एक भी जगह कोरिलेशन खराब हुआ, यू आर डूम्ड. एंड देन द इंटरव्यू कम्स. सो आई थिंक 12th फेल में बहुत लोगों ने इंटरव्यू देख लिया कि कैसे होता है. सो दीज आर टॉप ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हु आर टेकिंग योर इंटरव्यू एंड यू नो बहुत मुश्किल होता है उनको सेटिस्फाई कर पाना. एंड इंटरव्यू इज अगेन नॉट अ मेक और ब्रेक. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप बहुत अच्छे हैं पीआई में तो आपने गया, आप गए पीआई में, आपने फोड़ दिया और आपका हो गया. इट्स सम ऑफ पार्ट्स. तो मेंस के मार्क्स एंड इंटरव्यू के मार्क्स एड अप होते हैं. एंड देन अगर आपके टॉप, इफ यू क्लियर द कट ऑफ और यू आर अबव अ सर्टेन रेंज, तब आपका सिलेक्शन होता है. तो इट्स नॉट अ मेक और ब्रेक. तो अगर आपके मेंस खराब है तो आप इंटरव्यू में जाकर के बहुत ही तोप भी निकल गए तब भी आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. एंड अगर आपका मेंस बहुत अच्छा है, इंटरव्यू में आपके कम मार्क्स है, you still good. And the thing is, another difficult part here is that CA में once you clear a part, you stay there. You know, you don't go back. But UPSC में once you fail at any stage, you start from the very beginning.
So what happened after UPSC? So after UPSC, then what did you do? You took up a job somewhere, or you got back to business? What happened?
So that was the year 2017 when I kind of failed UPSC, and that was the most challenging decision which I had to take in my life. क्योंकि and this is to cater to people who are still doing UPSC, जिनके 2 attempt हो गए, 3 attempt हो गए हैं. And boys and girls, I'm talking to you guys directly over here कि you know, I know it's very attractive that you know एक और attempt करते हैं, हो जाएगा तो एवरीथिंग विल चेंज, बट इट्स अ प्योर प्ले गैम्बल. इट्स नॉट मोर देन आप सट्टा लगा लो या फिर आप जाकर के पोकर खेल लो. इट्स वेरी इक्विवेलेंट टू दैट. यू आर प्लेइंग अ गैम्बल विथ योर लाइफ. एंड आपके पास ऑलरेडी एक डिग्री है, तो अ डिग्री विच इज 2 years old विल गेट मोर ओल्डर. एंड यू नो फ्रेश टैलेंट विल कम इनटू द मार्केट. तो आपका अट्रैक्टिवनेस कम होते चला जाएगा. आई हैव इंटरेक्टेड विद लॉट ऑफ पीपल जिन्होंने अपना 3-4 साल 5 साल यूपीएससी को दे दिया, दे डिडंट क्वालिफाई एंड नाउ दे आर गुड फॉर नथिंग. तो I know it's a dream, but it's also a gamble after a certain stage. आप 2 साल gamble कर सकते हो. You can't gamble with your life for such a long tenure because then you'll have nothing in your hand. So it's always have to, you know, they say one bird in hand is better than 2 in the bushes. तो आपको वो inflection point पे you have to take this hard decision. So that is what I took. I had a chartered accountant degree already. I was like, बस हो गया. I need to become self-sustainable, self-dependent, and need to start taking care of myself. And there are many ways to serve the country, or you know, if you are looking for power, there are a lot of ways to get power. So it's a very over glamorized profession, I would say, UPSC. And I have my own reservations on why UPSC is not the best thing to do in the country. So we can talk about that later. So continuing my journey, I was when I was doing UPSC, I was appearing for a lot of government examinations. So one of them was Coal India Limited, and you know the timing matched. जैसे मैंने UPSC में fail किया, मैं Coal India का exam pass किया. So it was a very natural choice for me. And Coal India is something which is very close to my hometown. So as soon as I told my family members कि Coal India में हो गया, they're like all गागा कि अरे सरकारी नौकरी Coal India, my God, what do you want more? Join it ASAP. It's UPSC, it's IS for them already. So I was like ठीक है. I was like, this is the best opportunity I have. So I joined Coal India. I joined as a management trainee in finance because I was a CA. But वो अंदर में थी आग already. So when you join a PS, you don't find a lot of people very proactive about working. They are very laid back and they have their own thought process, which is not wrong again. But I didn't want to be one of the crowd. So I started taking up challenges over there. And that helped me get highlighted very early in my career. So 1.5 years down the line, I was picked by the chairman of the company directly. You will be part of my Gen Next team and you will be solving for how Coal India should diversify so that we are able to de-risk our business, because we were a mining company, and given the Paris climate summit and stuff, it would not last for too long. So that kind of taking challenges attitude which I had helped me to get into that team. So this is again to that janta who are very early in their career, joined a company or a startup or any place, maybe a PSU as well. Starting में आपको ना challenges ढूंढने पड़ेंगे. You'll have to look for challenges. And काम करने से ही काम सीखेंगे. So we always think we are overburdened and you are doing a lot of stuff. But अगर आप जा करके challenges accept करेंगे, this is what is going to make you stand unique out of the crowd. अगर आपको crowd के बाहर खड़ा होना है तो आपको कुछ अलग करना पड़ेगा. You can't live an extraordinary life by doing ordinary things. This is what I say.
Challenges and also opportunities. When opportunities come, you need to grab it. मतलब ठीक है, it is come, I'll just wait for another one. वैसे that will help you.
There is a very bitchy thing about opportunities, Mayank, I'll tell you. Opportunities come to people who are already taking challenge. मतलब fortune favors the brave करके एक proverb है. तो what I say कि opportunities बहुत selectively आती है. तो आपको क्या होगा, अगर आप एक general बंदे हो, आप normal average काम कर रहे हो, तो opportunity देने वाला आपको consider भी नहीं करेगा. Opportunity देने वाला उसी को consider करेगा जो कुछ अलग करने की कोशिश कर रहा है. तो आपको general काम भी अच्छे से करना है, so that whenever a good opportunity comes, it at least knocks at your door. तो अपॉर्चुनिटी ऑटोमेटिकली भी नहीं आती है. इन अ कंट्री ऑफ 140 करोड़ तो एकदम नहीं आती है. देयर आर 10 people just like you doing the same stuff which you are doing. So what is so different about you? So that is about opportunity, and that's how I got into chairman Gen Next team. किया काम. I worked with consultants. I worked with government stakeholders. बहुत exposure मिल गया बहुत early age में, which generally doesn't happen in PSU. And while doing so, I understood कि यार CA degree is not enough for me. So this question a lot of people ask me कि being a CA आपने क्यों ISB किया, मतलब MBA करने की क्या जरूरत थी? So I have my own set of reservations for how CA courses, it's there in India right now, and it needs to improve a lot just to match up with what is happening in the country. So a CA by degree is a postgraduate degree आज के डेट पे.
Exactly.
So it's an undergrad plus postgrad degree. Right. But अगर आप मुझे फिर भी MBA करना पड़ रहा है, then there is something wrong with the curriculum right now. तो क्या हुआ, being a CA, there is a disadvantage which is obviously in the structure of examination itself कि आपको in class learning नहीं मिलती है. You are not exposed to a structured learning process जहाँ पे आप क्लास जाते हो, सीखते हो, लोगों से interact करते हो, because that is a very essential part of your soft skills development. हाँ, correct. So in this era of 21st century where it's more about how you present things than how you know things. तो अगर आप present नहीं कर पा रहे हो, चीजें आपको पता है पर आप बता नहीं पा रहे हो, then it's irrelevant. It's as good as you not knowing stuff. Right. So that is a disadvantage. Again, being a CA, I was very good with financial analytics. मेरे को नंबर समझ में आते थे, but एक बार समझ में आने के बाद उनका क्या करूँ ये नहीं समझ में आता था. So, for me, numbers were just numbers, and beyond that, it had no sense for me. Profit हो रहा है तो हो रहा है, अच्छी बात है. Loss हो रहा है तो गलत बात है. बस इतना ही समझ में आता था. And I'll be very honest about. Yeah.
Tell me something कि जैसे so after CA, so firstly your profile is very diverse, CA, and then you also pursued UPSC, and then Coal India where you worked in strategy, and then you came to ISB. ठीक है. But just coming back to your CA degree, so I want to understand what are the opportunities you get after you become a CA, and what does the pace looks like in India? मतलब what is the range, and is it sufficient because it is a postgraduate degree? So is it in line with what other postgraduate degrees offer, or is it still lesser? What do you think?
So if I had to talk about opportunities, I would, they will stem out of the subjects that we study. So पहला is auditing. So CAs are the only government mandated people who can conduct audit and sign audit reports. So that is naturally वो आपको सरकार ने protection दे रखा है. You have a monopoly on. So auditing is something which people do, which generally big four firms do, or there are a lot of firms who do. So this is something which people venture into. Second is taxation. So you study taxation. So before CA became prominent, taxation was done by advocates. But after CAs started coming and the numbers started churning out, taxation aspect also started being catered by CAs. So there is direct taxation, indirect taxations, which again mostly big four firms do, and then industry also have these kind of opportunities for CAs on taxation and taxation related things. Third is accounts. So that's preparation of financial accounts, which is again mandated by law, and CAs are mostly trained in the country. So people with BCom and MCom also do a lot of accounting, but generally you find more or less CAs doing this kind of work. So जितने भी industries होते हैं वहाँ पे finance and accounts का function is catered to by CAs. Then there comes IB, that is investment banking. So there is a very low chunk which is able to get into investment banking because that industry is very small compared to the other three. So that is where you can venture into. And then the fifth space which I would call is coming up is startups. So startups being startups, they don't have a structured approach कि एक CA आएगा तो यही करेगा, but it's more about what kind of CA you are. So you can be doing business finance there, you can be doing commercial finance, and then maybe you can be doing strategy as well. And then you go up the echelons, and depending on how you go ahead, your career shapes up. So broadly, if I had to categorize CA post qualification, this is the 5 places where they generally venture into. The pay for accounts, taxation, auditing, industry accounts I covered. So these 3 would be similar. That's not that great because again, in the era of artificial intelligence, these are skills which is going to be redundant very soon. This is what I feel. You are more a kind of doing things which artificial intelligence can do at a faster speed at a much lesser cost. And dhanda is all about value addition, boss.
Right.
If you are adding value, you get value. These are cost centers, if I had to put it in financial terms. So you are not adding to the profit of the company, so you can't expect to get a chunk out of it. But when I talk about IB or let's say startup, if you are in a place where you are generating value, you generally get a part of it as well. So IB has this system of bonuses where you get a chunk out of the firm is earning and depends on how it performs. So वहाँ पे अगर आप as a CA है तो you are creating value, and then that's how you be part of value. So it's a very simple definition. If you are creating value, you get paid well. If you are not creating value, don't get paid that well. But again, in IB, I think CFAs are taking up more chunk nowadays because unka curriculum is planned in such a manner that they can cater directly to that. CA Institute needs to do a lot of stuff to keep the CA tag very valid. Postgraduate degree to ban gaya hai, but it's just like any other postgraduate degree with not that kind of a glamour attached to it or that kind of opportunities attached to it. So that's what.
What would be the pay scale in say tax, auditing, and industry specific roles, and what would it be in say something a little more glamorous like IB?
It depends, right? If Big Four is hiring you or if you are going to a sub tier 1 or tier 2, tier 3 auditing.
Correct. So I would talk about a major chunk जो Big Four में ही चाहते हैं. So it would be, I think starting would be around 8 to 10 lakhs per annum. I might be outdated on this, but that's the range I generally hear around. And that's where the industry also hire you. But increment in Big Four is faster, more exponential as compared to industry. Again, for the reason that they pay you out of what they are earning from the client. So you work for the client. And industry see you more kind of a cost center again. वहाँ पे आपका increment बहुत कम रहता है. And in IB, again, the fixed component इधर ही range करेगा around 10-12 when you begin. But you'll have a good bonus component attached to it, which can be 50% to 100% of your pay. And that just boosts up your salary. And then this is general numbers. There are exceptional companies which pay higher than this. But again, मेरा एक अपना fund है कि nobody pays you. हाँ?
But generally, this is the range.
This is the range. And what I was telling about the higher paying companies, nobody pays you more for no reason. Right. So if somebody is paying you more, there has to be something hidden. So
they're actually making 10x of that amount from you.
Correct. आपके 10x बना रहे हैं, they will skim you more. You learn through the process. That's a different thing. Right. But आपको delivery उतना ही tight रहता है. You are much more is expected of them. So that is a catch. So that's what is CA industry about right now.
So जैसे अभी somebody post MBA from ISB or from any top Indian B school, the average CTC would be around 30 lakhs. Okay. And now we've discussed that in after CA, which is also a postgraduate degree, your average salary range would be somewhere around 8 to 10 lakh. Maybe in a good case, it would be say somewhere around 15 lakhs. Okay, but still it's a postgraduate degree that you've completed. So now that you've gone through both of them, and purely in terms of output, what would you suggest someone who is actually looking to pursue CA? Should they instead just use that time to study for MBA and probably crack the best B school in the country? Or do you think CA actually adds way more value and it is more of a long-term thing that you get by doing a CA?
So, this is a good question which I would like to solve mathematically more than, giving just gyan on what you should do, what you should not do. And it all anchors on what do you think is your probability of clearing a good B school. So, agar aapko lagta hai that you are 100% sure of converting a B school, you should definitely go ahead, do a BCom from a very good college or any undergrad course for that matter from a good college, and then clear CAT or clear GMAT and then get into a B school. But if you think that the probability of you converting a B school is not that great, you should stick to doing a CA, which can give you an assurance कि if you kind of pursue it for like 2-3 attempts and you are not that a good student you feel, then आपका थोड़े दिनों बाद clear हो जाएगा and you can at least make a good life for yourself. So being aspirational comes with a disclaimer that you have to put in that hard number of hours to clear stuff. Just being aspirational without knowing ground reality will get you down someday and that will be a free fall. So अगर आपको aspirational होना है, then you have to be very sure that I'll be doing this, and it should not be like कि बस सोच लिया कर लेंगे. You need to talk to people. You need to understand that what is really expected out of you. अगर आपको CAT prepare करना है, GMAT prepare करना है या personality development करना है so that you are able to convert the PI as well. So you need to talk to people and understand that where do you fit in all this? Are you even qualified to do all this, or do you need more upskilling, or do you need to invest more time, and will you be able to do that? So अगर आपको करना है MBA कि नहीं करना है, it all depends on probability of how much do you think, what are your chances of converting it. Blind race करना है, then again it comes to gambling. Be blind and put in your money and then see what fate has for you. That is what most Indians do, but I think we have to be more calculated now because again it's your career. वरना क्या होगा 5 साल down the line when you go back and see, then you say कि क्या plunder करिए, because we Indians have a habit of seeing we see only the people who made it. Nobody tells us who did not, and that's a huge
stories are not told. And in CA also the failure rates are also high. Like I have many friends who attempted CA, they've put in those 2-3 years, they've given multiple attempts, but at the end then they've dropped it because you also want to sustain yourself, you want to become self-independent, and you want to start earning because you see around yourself that people have already started earning a lot.
The next question that I have in mind is, so I'm working as a developer and as a product analyst both, but I use AI and tech extensively in my work these days. I was not using it that much in my previous role as a software developer, but I am using AI a lot these days. And I feel that we all know that AI and automation are in trend right now, and it is taking up a lot of jobs in different fields like design or anything which is redundant and which a machine can do much more efficiently. Do you think that MBA is relevant in today's time? Because the jobs that you would be getting after MBA, I think most of it, in marketing, finance, or as far as consultancy is concerned, can be done by MBA to a lot of extent. So the number of jobs that the recruiters would be offering would come down a lot more.
I have a very different perspective over here. I would say if I had to talk about specifically post MBA, no, I see AI as more kind of an enabler there, more kind of a facilitator than being a competition for folks post MBA. If I have to answer the same question, post CA, my answer would be very different. So I'll take it back to the again same principle what I'm talking about of value addition, value creation. So a lot of folks who qualify out of B schools now, they do a lot of jobs which create value for the companies. It is very creative. There is no linear thinking. AI is something which is more about linear thinking and something based on what it has learned from the past. It's very difficult for them to predict future. And this is where the human brain comes in. There are a lot of other factors which you can't, put it into AI tool. Maybe going ahead, it comes with more capability of thinking and processing, and it can be better than today. But wherever there is value creation, I think AI would not be challenging jobs, but would be more kind of a facilitator, which helps you to take more better decisions. So, you can always go to an AI platform and ask this, give me an analysis of these kind of data, and what would you recommend to do? And again, you'll still have to put your brain and think कि जो AI suggest कर रहा है वो करना है कि नहीं करना है. So that is a bottleneck which will always be there, and that is where the human brain would still be required. And talking about the Indian ecosystem of jobs, it's very widespread right now. A lot of companies there in different technologies or different spaces doing a lot of stuff. So there's not going to be any dearth of talent requirement. It's all about how good companies use AI. It's a challenge which I don't see on individual level for talents, but a challenge on more kind of a company level. So people who
So it's a
use it,
headache,
the
it's a headache for them. It's a headache for
Yes,
them.
absolutely, absolutely, and it percolates from there. If it's a headache for a company, it's a headache for the talent over there. तो आपको सीखना पड़ेगा, आपको उसके against compete नहीं करना पड़ेगा. You need to learn to use those resources in the best manner possible, because it's very difficult for me as well to keep in pace with what is developing outside. कहाँ क्या हो रहा है? Every day you hear that something else has come up. So more you interact with people, more you are networked with people, more you come to know that this is happening in your space, this is the kind of technology coming up, and then you can maybe integrate it with what you are currently doing and come out with better results. So if you are an ostrich, shaturmurg जिसको बोलते हैं, with your head into the sand and you're thinking that कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, sorry sir, you are the next Nokia in building. So they didn't do anything wrong. We all know the case study of Nokia. They didn't do anything wrong, but they didn't just match up with what was going externally. So you need to match up with what is going externally. So companies need to be more geared up for this, and eventually people need to be more geared up about learning those stuff. But post MBA, I don't see it as much of a challenge.
I think I agree with you a lot on it being an enabler. So जैसे even I am working in consulting right now, and मैं देखता हूँ कि AI is being used extensively in consulting, and it is definitely a big enabler. But what I am thinking is what is going to happen in 5 years from now is, अगर suppose for a project you needed 10 people before, now you can do it with 6 or 5, because AI is
Correct.
you increase the utilization for those 6 people by so much that you do not need 10 people to do the job now. So I think
Correct.
So this is exactly what I meant.
utilization, but maybe there it might affect some jobs. But then those people will have to actually, upskill themselves to be better utilized somewhere else.
Yes, so I have two answers to it. What I was answering was for post MBA. So the ratio of an MBA in any project would not be that great. The number of people who are put into a project, that number still stays relevant, and there will be people, it will kill jobs at a much lower hierarchy, at a lower hierarchy than in the upper hierarchy. So that is how I see it. But again, to counter that, the way India is expanding, there are a lot of jobs which are going to come which we have not even thought of. So there is kind of a security layer which will develop. So it's more kind of wait and watch game. But if you want to be 100% sure, go and learn those skills which are out there available. And again, on those fund of, if you want extraordinary results for yourself, you can't be ordinary. You'll have to stand out. You just don't need to
adapt and update with time.
Yes, so you don't need to run faster than the tiger. You need to run faster against whom you are competing, and the tiger can take the people who are slow. So that's the only thing.
So let's also discuss more on the post graduation and especially ISB. So
Correct.
MBAs in India, and especially one from ISB, comes with a hefty tuition fees.
Correct.
So do you think the return on investment after an MBA is justified, especially in this competitive job market where even MBAs are being fired from various opportunities because of the current condition? Or do you think there can be a different path that needs to be established maybe by the companies or by individuals? What can be done in this scenario? Because the fees is too high. And do you think it is justified, like this higher fees? And what is your opinion on?
So देखो, being an MBA, no, I would tell you how I see of fees being really high. So you must be knowing that ISB, where we graduated from, it's the fees which we take and the costing which they invest, they are not even breaking even. The PGP is a loss-making program for them. So the kind of costs which they incur is very, very high. Right. And that's why they charge you hefty fees. It's not that they're minting money. I know about ISB, I don't know about other colleges. But again, how I see is again, how I see again is that, these courses need to be expensive again for the sake of premiumization. You would know about premiumization, that, you just don't want everyone to do it as well. So there is this premiumization, which also adds a quotient of risk. And if you are capable of taking that risk, then only you will be signing up for that kind of program, else you will not be signing up for that program. Because if everybody signs up, it again becomes difficult, and it becomes UPSC. That kind of premiumization is something which MBA brings into picture. Not talking about ROIs, I'm in the business of renewable energy, and we put up projects for 25 years. So हम लोग क्या होता है, हम लोग ROI 2-4 साल में देखने की कोशिश करते हैं. I would suggest that if you have to see ROI, you have to see it throughout your career. So let's say you're doing MBA at the age of, if you're doing an MBA for 25 or 30, you still have 30 to 35 years to work. And where you are going to be at the age of 55 post an MBA and without an MBA is also something which you should factor in. So let's say you are a CA, and the most you can make out of is a CFO in an organization, or maybe a managing director in other firms. That's where you can reach. But being a CEO is going to be very tough for you, and doing something out of finance is going to be very tough for you. And for that matter, if you're a BTech, if you're a computer software engineer from an engineering college, a good engineering college, आप CTO तक बनोगे, ठीक है. और if you find a startup, you be your own. So that is very different. But in an industry, you'll become a CTO. But becoming a CEO is again going to be a notch higher challenge for you. You are exceptional, you will make it. There are exceptions, but exceptions don't run the country. You need to see what is the average general standard. तो हाँ, तो अगर आपको ROI देखना है ना, तो हैव अ वेरी लॉन्ग टर्म पर्सपेक्टिव अबाउट इट, एंड द फीस विल बी जस्टिफाइड बिकॉज you told me that. Means in fact, I told you कि post CA your CTC is 10 lakhs. With 3 years of experience, you are somewhere at 15-16 lakhs. You graduate from ISB, your salary is 30 lakhs. So the delta is huge to pay back your loan in like 4 to 5 years. So आप 4-5 साल में ब्रेक इवन कर गए, उसके बाद जो भी आ रहा है वो बोनस आ रहा है, and it gives you an added opportunity of becoming a C-suite, a higher C-suite than what you could become without an MBA. That is how I would put things into perspective. But again, it comes with a probability of whether you think that you'll be able to do things in the way you are planning it. If you still feel कि नहीं हो सकता है, then it's not a risk worth taking, because you commit very high fees, and you have to be very sure that why you want to do an MBA, because market can be funny. 23 recruitment has been funny. 24 recruitment is still very funny. Pardon me for calling it funny, but it's funny in a very dark sense. You invest 40 lakh of rupees and you're not being placed. So that's a mockery what life is playing with you. So आपको वो risk element हमेशा रहेगा. So risk and reward, it is that kind of a relationship. But from very ROI perspective, it makes sense to me, and I've given my reasoning why it makes sense to me.
Also, I think it opens up a lot of doors for you later on. I mean, just the network that you build, since all of them are getting into good companies, they are pursuing these CXO roles. Eventually, it opens up a lot of opportunities for you, which you would not otherwise have access to. So I think a good...
Yeah, so how I would put it is that if you're not doing an MBA, it closes a lot of doors for you. If you're doing an MBA, it might not open up. But if you have not done an MBA, for that matter, work gates are closed for you. Because, with the kind of competition in India right now, आप एक job निकालो, you get 2,000-2,500 CVs.
Right.
Man, it's impossible for any company to scrutinize 2,000 CVs. Whereas एक बंदा कॉल उठा करके बोलेगा कि I know these 3 people and these CVs are, I think, relevant for this job, go through them. It makes life easy for everyone.
Agreed.
But it makes life challenging for someone who isn't sitting in that 2,000. It is a kind of, you pay money and buy network. You are absolutely correct over there.
Getting you back a year or two went into ISB, can you tell us what your biggest takeaway was from that 1 year? Maybe a memorable experience or a lesson you learned at your time in ISB that significantly impacted your approach to business and leadership. And this is for everyone who is looking forward to not just join ISB, but like take any of the top IIMs or
Absolutely.
any college in India for MBA.
So what's very interesting about these MBA schools is the diversity which they bring in. So I'll tell you my story. I was a very hard-coded kind of a person, जो बहुत सीधा सोचता था, जिसको लगता था जो वो सोच रहा वही सही है. There cannot be a different perspective into it. And even if a different perspective would come, I was incapable of appreciating it.
Hmm.
So when you go to an MBA school, no, you start seeing things from five more perspectives.
Hmm.
And up and I'm talking about very business sense over here. UPSC gave me very different perspectives. That is different, but that is more kind of social perspective which I get. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू एमबीए ना, आपको एक चीज को इतने तरफ से देखने की क्षमता मिल जाती है दैट यू आर एबल टू अप्रिशिएट दैट एवरीबडी इन द रूम इज वेरी रेलेवेंट. यू नो, यू शन दिस फैक्ट कि इसको कुछ नहीं पता. जिसको कुछ भी नहीं पता है ना, उसको भी कुछ पता है. दिस इज, यू नो, बिकॉज sometimes not doing anything is also very great, and these are the things which you learn in an MBA, in a B school, when you sit and chat with these people, or when you are part of team and solving a particular problem, or when you are in a classroom and somebody asks some question, you are like, अरे मैं क्यों नहीं सोच पा रहा था ऐसे, अरे इसमें तो ये एंगल भी है.
This really happens.
So
This really happens all the time. All the case studies that we have. Someone is going to come
correct.
and bring such a different view to it, and you'd be like, okay, this is also possible. Why did I not think of it? ये तो होता है.
Correct. So, and आपको लगेगा एक दिन पहले कि अरे ये तो बेवकूफ है. You always make your perception about people, right? You have your first interaction and you make a perception कि अरे इसको कुछ नहीं आता होगा. And then second day जब आप कुछ discuss कर रहे हो क्लासरूम में बैठे हो, he comes up with a fantastic perspective and you are like, oh freak, how can I, you know, have a prejudice by someone without even testing them? So it kind of created that maturity in me. तो अब क्या होता है कि I'm very skeptical about shunning anyone before hearing them out. एंड अगर मेरे को कोई आइडिया या कोई सोल्यूशन को कंप्लीटली स्क्रैप आउट करना है, देन आई पुट मच मोर एफर्ट बिफोर डूइंग दैट. अर्लियर आई वाज लाइक नहीं नहीं ये नहीं है, व्हाट आई एम थिंकिंग इज ओनली राइट. So it helps you with that kind of perspective broadening. Networking, again, very big thing, very big thing. I just can't explain in words what ISB gives you in terms of networking. And trust me, folks, you'll not be able to appreciate this fact if you're not from ISB, right? तो आपको तभी समझ में आएगा आफ्टर यू हैव डन इट. मेरे को भी नहीं लगता था. मेरे को भी जब मैं कर रहा था लाइक कि 14,000 15,000 और लोग से बात हो जाएगी, क्या फर्क पड़ जाएगा. बट छोटे से छोटे प्रॉब्लम से लेकर के बड़े से बड़े प्रॉब्लम तक, यू नो, फ्रॉम सेलिंग टिकट्स फॉर एन एड शीरन कंसर्ट टू रेस्क्यूइंग समवन हु इज स्टक इन अ फॉरेन कंट्री who has lost his passport and visa. So this is the kind of spectrum of solutions which you get when you are exposed to such a network. That is absolutely another takeaway which I would say from ISB.
I think from that network, you get your first set of investors, first set of teammates as well. Once you're out of college and you're looking to start something,
anything,
that
boss, anything you can
really
get. You can, if your car servicing is not happening good, somebody sitting in that car company can get your problem solved. तो इतना छोटा काम से लेकर के getting funding for the startup.
This is so true. I've seen all kinds of emails and messages that you get in the alumni network, in mails and
Correct.
WhatsApp groups. People asking for help for the smallest and the biggest of things, and there's always a person who will reply, who is there to help you out. So I
Correct.
think which is excellent.
And here also I have a very different perspective. Flooding of these messages for me would be like, अरे it's irrelevant for me, बहुत flooding हो रहा है, it's not required. But जिस दिन आपको जरूरत होती है ना, you want it to be flooded. You want that response to come in. So you need to appreciate that fact कि, you know, somebody is in that desperate need. So it helps. The network really helps.
Okay, so moving on to something a little controversial. If you had to suggest 3 things that you think ISB should change, or maybe something that you would have done differently in your journey at ISB, what would it be?
So first is that ISB need to work more on it, you know, of students. Because if you are taking someone and you're not able to place that one, which is very, you know, minimal number at ISB, but अगर एक भी बंदा है, then it's injustice to that person.
Okay.
So you have to be very selective first. Second, you have to reduce your batch size, because premiumization is something I talked about. So, you know, you can't be premium when you're generating 900 students every year. You have someday you will be like कि हर जगह ISB के students बैठे हुए, and then you kind of start losing that premiumization. And third is that I've not seen a lot happening on ISB curriculum for, you know, a lot of years. So you have to again go back to drawing board and see how curriculum can be more practical approached, more linked with what the market is doing right now, and more move towards practical learning than theoretical learning. So a lot at ISB is already, you know, non-theoretical, but still I think there is more to be done on that aspect. So these are the 3 things which I would
spoke about premiumization. I just have one follow-up there. So do you think ISB is missing out on a very good chunk of excellent people by not taking some intake from CAT aspirants? people who give CAT exams or who go to the top IIMs. Do you think ISB is missing out on a big chunk by only taking people from GMAT?
So I see
Also,
it
like
other.
adding to the same question, do you think that it eats up the places for people who actually have merit, and it gives that seat to someone who's got that money in their bank? Because not everyone
Absolutely.
would be able to pay 40 lakhs a year, right?
So I'll take these two questions very differently. First question I would take about CAT and GMAT. So आपको MBA स्कूल में सबसे पहली चीज यही सिखाई जाती है कि आपको सब कुछ नहीं करना है. You need to find out where your niche lies, where you are an expert, and you should focus on that industry only rather than doing everything which comes across the board. So ISB is very, very sure that it wants to take people only with work experience. And the percentage of people going into CAT without a work experience is much more than people going in with work
Very
experience.
high.
So, so ISB doesn't want to focus on people who don't have work experience. It's more kind of an internationally driven B school. So ISB is not competing with IIMs. Let me put it out there completely. ISB is competing with people who want to do an MBA and want to go out of India.
It's competing with the Waltons and the Harvards of the world, right?
करेक्ट. इट्स अ स्वदेशी अभियान फॉर एमबीए. इसको इम्पोर्ट सब्स्टिट्यूशन बोल लो बेसिकली.
हाँ.
तो दैट इज व्हाट आईएसबी इज डूइंग एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट हैज इट्स ओन एस्पेक्ट. सो GMAT is something which is internationally accepted and that's why it wants to cater to that. And अगर वो CAT भी accept करने लग जाएगा, it will be diluting on what agenda it has put up for itself. So yes, it might be losing out on merit, it might be losing out on a lot of people, but again, it has made its own choice. I want to exist in this space only. So, and any decision in life you take, there will be negatives attached to it, but you can't go on solving for all the negatives until and unless आपका vision and mission clear है कि मेरे को ये problem solve करना. That is the kind of problem they are solving. Now coming to the again salary वाला aspect, IIMs charge you 25 lakhs rupees around average. ठीक है. ISB is charging you 40 lakh rupees. So the delta is not very great. कि for an MBA 15 lakh का delta is not a lot because आप उसको 2 साल में उस डिफरेंस को एटलीस्ट 2 साल में पे कर सकते हो. But the average CTC of ISB जहां तक मुझे पता is a notch better, maybe not much better, but
Can you put a number on it?
I think ISB का previous average CTC was 34 lakhs around, and good IIMs range in lower 30s. So that is the kind of difference. But this is just the placed CTC. Given your experience and given ISB, you can always create a career journey which is much more accelerated than someone who is just getting into business. So again, it's more about an NPV. आपको 10 साल का पर्सपेक्टिव लेना पड़ेगा कि उस 10 साल में एक ISB का आलम कहाँ पहुंच रहा है और एक IIM का आलम कहाँ पहुंच रहा है, just because of difference of that work experience which they have nothing to do with talent or the college time. So that is the kind of thing which ISB brings into perspective. तो merit नहीं lose out हो रहा. ऊपर से if you are meritorious and you are confident that you are going to create things out of ISB, तो again going to my previous statement कि आपको ROI बहुत अच्छा है and आपको financial assistance घर पे आके मिलता है. So when we got admission into ISB and we're trying to look out कि how to get financial assistance at the beginning, so it was very easy. It's a cakewalk. So
नाम से you'll get the loan.
Because it's a AA plus category institute, so you get loan at a very
Subsidized
very
rate.
affordable interest rate. Very subsidized affordable interest rate, and you can pay that back in 4 to 5 years with the minimum CTC which you get out of ISB. So ऐसा कुछ people miss out नहीं कर रहे until unless they're very sure कि उनको MBA करना है and they can make the most out of it.
Coming back to your work now, pre-ISB, you were working at Coal India, which is a government entity, and now you're working at Tata Power. And in both of these roles, you were working in the strategy or founder's office. How different or similar has your experience been working in these two different entities which are driving power in the country?
So देखो, organizationally it's very different, obviously, because PSUs exist to make the India's social thread very strong. They are not in the business of creating money or वो पैट बढ़ाने या market cap बढ़ाने के लिए exist नहीं करते हैं. It goes back to the funda which Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, our ex-prime minister, started setting up PSUs. The agenda was very clear that private players didn't have that kind of a capital to set up capital intensive businesses. So that's where government came into the picture. And they have been solving for problems which the country has been facing for a lot of years. They have been doing a lot of dirty jobs, which private sector would never do. So I have a very different kind of respect for PSUs, and वहाँ का agenda is very different from what agenda a private sector has. हम लोग बहुत easily criticize कर देते हैं कि ये PSU ये नहीं कर रहा, वो नहीं कर रहा, but we need to understand, we need to respect the fact कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं, which you would really not do. You would say this doesn't make business sense to me, but they are not there to do business. So that is a very different perspective they are catering to. Coming to private sector, Tatas are known for their business values, and I've experienced this personally, that you are told कि कुछ भी गलत नहीं कर, but still we are trying to be industry best. So we are fighting a race where we don't have all the artilleries in our back, because when you go out doing business, you understand that different industry, different businesses, different groups are doing different kind of stunts which you are not allowed to, but still you have to compete against them. So it's a very challenging place, but a place where you feel culturally very motivated. You have people who are very good, but still they strive for excellence. So it's always double-edged sword कि आपको अच्छा भी करना है पर कुछ गलत नहीं करना है. So a very challenging place to work in.
I think
But what
that's
I
really
would
nice, because what you said is basically winning is important, but winning the right way is more important.
correct.
Which
So
is
this
great.
is what I'll tell you what my CEO said the last day. Is like कि हमें क्वांटिटी पे नहीं क्वालिटी पे फोकस करना है. मे बी हमारा क्वांटिटी किसी से कम रह जाए, बट दैट्स नॉट द रेस वी आर फाइटिंग. बट आई डोंट नीड इवन वन कंप्लेंट ऑन क्वालिटी. So that is the kind of messaging which goes inside. And but I would like to cover more on how it's different for me as a CA and as an MBA. So going back to the thing why I did an MBA was because मेरे को नंबर समझ में आते थे, उसके आगे का कुछ नहीं समझ में आता था. So there was this professor who was ex-CEA of India at ISB for us. Mayank would be knowing KV Subramaniam. So what happened? He told us in one class that finance without strategy is just numbers, and strategy without finance is just theory. So MBA helps you marry both. So मेरे को before MBA I just knew finance. Now I know strategy and finance, and I'm able to appreciate fact that numbers do make sense, but when you put strategic mindset out there, sometimes number can be, you can laugh at numbers. And it's very factual. People who have seen startups, they know they are all loss making, but it's a very strategic loss which they are doing, because they know that they are fighting a growth game. Once they grow, the numbers will automatically come in. But अगर मैं as the CA देखता हूँ like अरे यार loss बना रहे बंद करो. So that is the kind of different perspective which these education brings. It's a very generic example which I've given, but it's much more complex when you are inside in a meeting or in a boardroom.
Great, yeah. I think that was a really great chat. So I would want to move to our last section where we have a rapid fire round. And so as Karan Suhar says it, your answers have to be rapid and full of fire. Okay, so let's start. So the first question is ISB or IMABC or a global top B school like Wharton. If you could, then what would you choose and why?
Obviously ISB, and this is some choice which I had already made, and that's why it's very easy for me to answer. So I got a 100% scholarship from ISB. I was very lucky to get that. And when I got that, a lot of people told me, go global, because Indian B schools are very miser when it comes to giving scholarship. And if you're getting it from an Indian B school, you have a lot of chance that you can get it from a global B school. You can get an admission as well as a scholarship. But I was very reluctant for two reasons. First, I have this patriotic kind of thing in my mind. You belong to a place. You have been conditioned by a place, and after a point you go and contribute somewhere else. It doesn't ethically sits good with me. Nothing with the people who are doing it, but it doesn't. Second is that once you take a dollar loan, you have to pay it back in dollars. So going to a global B school, you get a dollar loan. आपको वही job ले करके उसको pay back करना पड़ेगा. And once you have a certain life, and by that time you get adjusted to a lifestyle, and you are not able to come back to the country. So I'm a very family oriented person. So that was two reasons for which I would not select a global B school. I started thinking about an MBA after 4 or 5 years of work experience. So didn't fit my bill. So that's the reason I went for ISB.
Great. What is it that ISB has to offer that other top B schools in India like IMABC don't?
So the dialogues in the classroom are of a different level given because people are coming already with work experience and from different arenas of life. So for case competitions, we went to a corporate and we had people from different B schools. So that
Mm,
lack of confidence is very evident.
mm,
Nothing taking away from them, but they have barely seen the work environment and they
mm,
don't know how it functions. सो
mm.
दो चीजें हैं, एक आपका कॉन्फिडेंस डे वन से इट्स गोइंग टू बी वेरी गुड व्हेन यू आर पोस्ट placed post ISB, and second is that the classroom dialogue is going to be very great because it is very practical.
Mm.
लोग वो करके आ चुके हैं which they are putting
Actually,
into perspective.
exactly.
Yes.
Rank in order of importance of why one should go to a B school: a higher paying job, networking with bright peers, learning business fundamentals, or to pivot industries or roles.
I would rank it in the order you said it. So first would be the higher pay, second would be networking, third would be again learning business fundamentals, and fourth would be pivoting because pivoting is very challenging. So agar aapka if you want only to pivot, you have to do a lot of hard work if you want to pivot because no different industry is buying you until unless you bring something very effective on the plate. So that's
Okay.
that's the order for me.
So short word replies. So I'll be giving you one word and you have to give me short word replies for it. Okay. So
Sure.
the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the following words: CA,
Okay. Redundant.
ISB,
Networking.
MBBs,
Going to be redundant.
Tata Power.
Uh, Culturally very strong.
Great. Uh, if there was one company that you could pick to work for from all over the world, which one would it be and why?
So I would pick Tata Sons only. So right now I'm in Tata Power, and Tata Sons is the holding company for it because the reasoning is very simple. Power gives you perspective about power only, but when you go to Sons, it's the holding company for all. It's a conglomerate basically.
Mm.
So that will help you in your perspective broadening and learning more about different kind of businesses. So that would be Tata Sons.
Okay. So in the power industry, okay, so now since you're working as a strategist for Tata Power, if you were to acquire, invest, or kill a startup in this industry, which ones would it be?
So that is something which is censored for me because we continuously keep on working on that. So
Okay.
so cannot be put out on public forum.
Okay. Next question. If you could have dinner with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would it be?
Okay, so that's a tricky one. But if it has to be entrepreneur, it will be Nitin Kamath because they have built a business which is sustainable. They're not into the game of building businesses where
Hmm.
they believe in taking exit. So
Why didn't you say Ratan Tata?
so I would not like to disturb him, and honestly, I'm sure that I'll get a chance to have a dinner with him today or in few days because given my work, given my profile, I'm confident that I'll get that opportunity. So this was something very out of sight for me. So I would take someone who I directly wouldn't have chance with.
Fair.
Good.
Finally, one question which I intend to ask all of our guests who come on the podcast. What is that one problem that you face which you would pay for it to be solved?
I still feel that there is a lot of information asymmetry in a very structured manner. So if I had to look for solutions and if I have to still Google it and it comes in a very unstructured manner, I spend a lot of time looking for those answers.
Okay.
AI is doing it, but AI is still not that capable, and I'm sure because it's again learning from the past.
Hmm.
So getting information in a very structured manner to save your time is something I'm ready to pay, which good reports generally do. But again, they are thing of past. So real time information in a format which I want is
Hmm.
something I can pay for.
Yes, I think with AI and with the progressions tech is making every day, I think this is
Hmm.
not something which is too far. Maybe in a few years
Correct.
we can actually have this.
Correct. So that mathematical, the analytical capability AI has to build so that it's able to give me in the format which I want.
Exactly. Okay, so I think that was great. Thank you, Rishabh. It was a pleasure having you on our podcast. I think it has been very insightful, not just for us, but also for all of the listeners here. And for everyone curious about Rishabh's profile, his LinkedIn link will be in the description. So you can check it out from there. And yes, thank you again, Rishabh, for taking out time. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Mayank, and thank you, Mehul. And I hope I was very informative and relevant for the listeners. Thank you, everyone.
You are. We love talking to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.